Contrary to popular belief, atheism is not the position wherein a man lacks belief in a god or gods, but an active belief in the non-existence of God. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, atheism is the critique or denial of metaphysical beliefs in God or spiritual beings. It proposes positive disbelief rather than mere suspension or lack of belief. Atheism is not merely a lack of belief in, but an attack on God. Only where God has been seen as real and personal can much energy be generated in the cause of rebellion against him, as Harold O.J. Brown suggests. As early as Epicurus, there have been attempts to debunk the supernatural, but since the early 21st century, a new pattern of atheism has emerged. Departing from their skeptical forebears, the new atheists espouse a dogma that differs in both tone and content. Religion is said to be not only wrong, but evil. They do not just denounce belief in God, but respect for belief in God. Many atheists claim that killings and religious conflicts are direct and undeniable proof that religion is bad for society, and use events like the terror attack of 9/11 as examples. But the people who claim these things somehow severely overlook the tens of millions killed by atheist regimes even in the last century alone. 77 million in communist China, 62 million in the Soviet Union, and 21 million non-battle killings by the Nazis. This is many times more deaths than all religious wars put together in all centuries of human history. Although a large number of atheists accept atheism without good reason, a good number of them affirm atheism on the basis of several arguments. These arguments differ from one another, but they are the standard arguments employed by the atheist apologists. On the strength of these arguments, atheists deny the existence of God. These objections, however, have been adequately answered many times by a great number of different Christian philosophers and theologians. For the sake of time, I'm not going to be able to answer these questions now, but I plan to make a future video briefly responding to these arguments. It is fallacious to argue as some atheists do, insisting on the presumption of atheism, to suggest that the atheist does not have the burden of proof because atheism is the lack of belief in a God, is in a sense refusing to take part in playing the game but nevertheless insisting on getting the prize at the end. Not to mention how we already went over how atheism is not just the lack of belief in God, but the active rejection of and attack on him. Atheism is a claim to know something, just as much as theism. Therefore, it can neither claim presumption when evidence is equal, nor claim it does not have the burden of proof. Some atheists may say that the burden of proof always goes to the affirmative proposition, i.e., God exists, as opposed to the negative proposition, God does not exist. But then an example of self-refutation occurs. The proposition, the burden of proof falls on the affirmative position, is itself an affirmative position, so requires proof in itself. Furthermore, atheists assert many affirmative statements without proof. For example, the universe is either eternal or came into existence uncaused, non-living matter evolved into living cells by pure chance and undirected chemistry, complex specified information arose without intelligence, design features arose without a designer, moral sensibilities arose out of amoral matter, etc. Atheism takes all the above on faith, but blind faith. It takes greater faith to be an atheist. Atheism is a religion without God, a faith without reason, and a journey without a destination. An atheist is not a person without beliefs, but one who upholds a variety of beliefs. The only way for the atheist to be absolutely certain that there is no God is for the atheist to know everything about reality. He must know all facts about reality and existence, meaning he must have knowledge only God could possess. He must be omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, in which case the atheist must become God in order to prove that there is no God. He has become the very God he is seeking to disprove. But the atheist says there is no God, so how could he argue his position? Even Einstein himself said that he knew less than 0.5% of all there is to know. Even if we were to be generous and say the atheist knew 2% of all knowledge, is it possible for God to exist outside of this 2% of knowledge? The answer is logically and obviously yes. So then how could the atheist say with certainty that there is no God? Is it any wonder that the Bible says in Psalm 14:1, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God." While speaking at a university, Dr. Steve Kumar encountered an atheistic student declaring that there was no God. He asked, "Are you absolutely sure there is no God?" The student replied, "Yes." Kumar responded, "You have absolute knowledge to be absolutely sure that there is no God." The student replied, "No, I don't." Kumar responded, "Then you are not absolutely sure there is no God?" The student responded, "I believe there is no God." So again, there we have it. Atheism is a belief based on faith. An atheist is not one who has no faith. He is one who has no faith in God, but rather puts his faith and trust in the belief that there is no God. Atheists believe that the only thing after we die is nothingness. Our minds are erased, our consciousness ceases to exist. As I briefly went over earlier, atheists believe that we are here by pure chance. If we were not placed in this world by a god, but rather were evolved from primordial pond scum over billions of years, then we lack purpose on this earth. Our lives would lack meaning, and we might as well not even be here at all. The atheists responding to this may say that in the same way you don't stop watching a movie halfway through because it will end eventually, you don't just end your life because you'll die eventually. And to this I would agree, but then this position implies that while we may not have purpose on this earth, we can make the most of it by indulging in all the pleasures life has to offer. But as I went over in a previous video, we live in a world of plenty but are joyless. Why is it that today we live in abundance, able to have anything we want, but depression rates are rising, loneliness rates are rising, and suicide rates are rising? If there is no God and we have no purpose, the best thing we could reasonably do is chase happiness. To quote a fellow Christian YouTuber, "Happiness is the primary motivator for doing anything in life for atheists. They may chase money, they may chase women, they may chase food. All of these things will not bring them happiness. Instant gratification activities may bring temporary pleasure, but after you binge eat your whole fridge, do you really feel good about it? If we are here by pure chance and everything will eventually crumble and die, then everything we could ever do is pointless, meaningless, and in vain. If everything the atheist does is to attain happiness, but at the same time all actions are vanity, then what is the point of doing anything at all?" Now, I want you to imagine a Christian and an atheist. The Christian believes that God is real, and by placing his faith in and following Christ, he will be saved. The atheist believes there is no God and that everything is meaningless. Now, if the Christian is right, he gains everything, but the atheist suffers an eternity in hell. If the atheist is right, they both cease to exist, yet the Christian lived a fulfilling life, rejecting the temptations of the world, rejecting the desires of his flesh, while the atheist saw no point in this and indulged in everything he wanted, leading to a depressing, alone, undisciplined, and unfulfilling life. It is distressing if God does not exist, because it implies that man stands alone in space, in a meaningless universe without a spiritual home. Atheism offers no answer to the fundamental metaphysical questions regarding the reality of the universe or the genesis of human personality.